Today's episode is part 2 of the great Star Trek The Next Generation Geek Out.
Welcome to DiceGeeks.com Tabletop RPG Show. Level up your RPG campaigns by filling yourself with stories and knowledge. Explore topics from archaeology to film history to writing to literature and much, much more. This is DiceGeeks.com Tabletop RPG Show.
Welcome to the show. My name is Matt, and I am your host. This is the podcast where we learn how to become better game masters and role players by filling ourselves with stories and knowledge. Today's episode is part 2 of a massive Star Trek The Next Generation Geek Out. I had to cut our conversation in half because we talked so long just about the first few seasons of TNG. Just a reminder, my guest is Ryan McHargue. He is a writer. He is also the host of the podcast Geezers of the Game. So we are going to join this conversation kind of in mid-flow. If you haven't heard part 1, I would suggest you go back and listen to that. But here is part 2. Now, third season Next Gen, this is where things really change because Paramount realized the show was a hit, right? Mm-hmm. This was the point of the show.
Toys. This was toys.
Yeah, this was when they realized that it's like, oh, people are watching this and people are enjoying this. And we didn't realize this was our throwaway kind of little show that we're putting out to get the geeks here. But this is actually a moneymaker. This is when they realized that, and they started throwing money in. Season 3, I think, started off really strong. I love the Evolution episode that started off. Yeah. Well, I know it's a Wesley episode, but like we get him. But this is where I think the later seasons went astray. They're doing stuff. They're exploring. They're looking into new things. Sure, Wesley creates sentient nanites, which seems
spills them.
And spills them, and seems implausible on a number of levels, but spilling them is right up the alley, I guess, for what they've been doing for Wesley. But the scientist in this episode, great. Yes. The concept.
Well, that's what's his face from. Oh, what's his name? Oh man, I got. It doesn't matter. I'm too much time, but yeah, he was used quite heavily in sitcoms in the time period. That guy. What is his name? Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I can't. I can look it up and see, but I really love that episode. His name is Ken Jenkins. The actor's name is Ken Jenkins, and he was in. Let me see. He was in a lot of movies. Lots of movies.
Not big
television.
Movie.
He was in. Let's see here. He was in Babylon 5. He played in an episode of Babylon 5. He was in Sliders. He was in X-Files.
Oh, he was in Sliders. Yeah.
He was.
That's a show that we should have a whole episode about. Anyways,
Sliders. Yeah, I watched Sliders too.
I did too.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was in. Yeah, he did some voice work in Gravity Falls, which I hear is an anime, I think. I
have not watched it.
He was in, I have not watched that either. He was in a lot of movies, Executive Decision, Courage Under Fire, Last Man Standing, Gone in 60 Seconds. So he's real. He's legit. Yeah. I just love that episode.
It's a good episode. Yeah, well, and you've got the grown up version of Wesley, because that's really who he is.
Yes.
He's Wesley only unfulfilled at that point.
Exactly. He was the scientist that's going to be, and he even says, he even talks to Wesley and says, people didn't get me, right? People didn't get me when I was a kid. And I think you're going through that. And Wesley's like, yeah, they don't get me. And so that was interesting. Ensigns of Command. Great Data episode.
Yes,
where he goes.
Very good Data episode.
He can only go onto the planet because of a certain type of radiation, and he has to convince these humans. And he just keeps running up against the fact that he doesn't have emotions, and he's struggling to understand humanity. Great episode. I loved how they just kind of showed us people, colonists living on different worlds and stuff. I just loved all that stuff.
Dealing with, and for role playing specifically, the first 3 seasons because it's more exploration based, it's man versus nature almost all the time, constantly through those. And you want to know how to do a game with man versus nature that isn't a chase thing or run away from the avalanche thing or something like that.
Yeah.
These episodes are good fodder for that.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, because a lot of them just have certain situations that just put a little different twist on things, and that you're just like, you're exploring, you can only do this thing one time in 500 years. Well, throw in this complication right here in the second that you have to figure it out. It adds a timer to your, your session, which always, raises the tension. It's just some, classic kind of drama things, classic storytelling elements and that's what I'm talking about when we can watch some of these episodes and just think, okay, so this thing can only happen one time in the person's lifetime, so they got to do it now. Well, introduce a complication to that, to where they have
let's make it hard.
Yeah, make it hard.
Got to have conflict.
Yeah, figure out that, figure out those complications before you can watch this one, this one thing.
You have characters with motivations, and you have a conflict. That screws with all of them.
Yeah, and I think game masters are just should be just like complication and conflict machines. We just throw, even if people are walking down the street, have somebody try to steal from them, throw something under their feet, whatever it is, just throw
a woman with a baby try to steal from them.
Exactly.
What do they do?
Yeah. Now you've introduced a moral complication. You think, is she just hungry? Is she protecting the baby? Or did she just kidnap that baby? Yeah. Yeah. Did she just kidnap that baby and is using it as a cover for her, theft ring or whatever? This is all the things that you can introduce even while your players are walking down the streets in a D&D world. It doesn't have to be science fiction or anything like that.
No, it could be. These are basic stories. Yeah. You could put them in anything. You could have the same thing happen in a Western or in medieval or whatever. It's not. Yeah. Stories are just a trope. Yeah. That you can use in anything.
Yeah. And then, moving on into the season, Booby Trap is a favorite episode of mine.
You like that one, huh?
I do, because, Geordi falling in love on the holodeck is, not my favorite trope, because we've gone back to that a couple times already.
Yeah.
It kind of made sense with Riker because the Binars actually made the holograms way better. But, Geordi falling in love with her is not my favorite thing, although that actress is quite fine. She does a good job. And Geordi, of course, is, Geordi, LeVar Burton is awesome. And so.
Oh, yeah. Reading Rabo all the way.
So he.
But Geordi never gets a date, ever.
Well, yes, he does.
Well, he has a hard time getting dates.
He gets Christy Henshaw later in season 3.
That's
actually.
True. Yeah.
But in Booby Trap, what I love is kind of the A plot where Picard, they find this, a battle cruiser that's like 1,000 years old or 10,000 years old or something. That's I think it's 1,000 years old.
I think it was 1,000. Yes. Yeah.
That's like stuck in, this asteroid, field. And he's like, this is from a war that happened when, somebody invented the crossbow on Earth or whatever, like this is, and I love that part of Picard. I really enjoy when he goes to beam over and Riker's like, no, you can't. It's too dangerous. And Picard's just like, look, I have loved these ships. I've read this history.
Yes.
I'm beaming over. I've got to walk on the ship, and I love kind of that feel of the ancient and this ship, this battleship. What is that? It's a dungeon, right? It's a dungeon in D&D, right?
Exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is. You go there, you find a clue, and you get caught in a trap, right? And you have to break out of the trap. And so I really like those parts of it. Yeah, Geordi, falling in love, not the most original thing on the holodeck, but like I said, LeVar Burton, and I should apologize to the actress who plays Leah Brahms, does a amazing job. I think she was in the running. She was in the running to be Janeway. I think they almost made.
She?
Yeah, I think they almost made.
I can see that.
They almost made her Janeway. I think she was like number 3 or something because they
explains the hairstyle.
Because they had the the first actress who dropped out, Genevieve Bujold, and then they had obviously Kate Mulgrew, who became Catherine Janeway.
Right.
But I think this lady was like in the running there too. She was like the third runner-up or second runner-up.
I did not know that. She does a great job in this episode playing a computer-generated version.
Yeah.
She plays it different because when you meet her, she's different.
Yeah.
But that's later.
Yeah, and that is later. Yeah, we get the sequel episode, which I think is a fine episode too. I mean, it's okay. It's not like on my list of favorites.
No, they're not the best episodes, but it's that type of writing.
Yeah.
That really endeared. One of my favorites is definitely Who Watches the Watchers.
Okay.
We have Picard as a god.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, not on my top list, but I know what people like about it. But not one of my
like
favorites.
that one.
Yeah.
And then my all-time favorite out of all 7 seasons is The Hunted.
Oh, I love The Hunted.
It's a Vietnam thing is what this is.
Yeah.
But
so that's your favorite of all of them?
That is my favorite. I like that guy. The actor did a great job.
Yeah.
And then what's his face from RoboCop? I can't think of his name.
Oh, no. James Cromwell, who...
Yeah, and he obviously from LA Confidential. He always plays people like that. He never
he's
plays
from Babe, and then
he's
he's also from Generations as well, from Star Trek Generations as well. He's also Babe. He was also in Babe, the pig movie.
That's right.
He was the farmer. Yeah, he was like...
Yes, he was.
Didn't he win an Oscar for that? I think he won an Oscar for that. He might have won an Oscar for that.
Might have.
I think he did. So that's interesting.
An Oscar for LA Confidential, but anyways.
Yeah, The Hunted is a great episode. I really enjoy it. I list that very high on my list. Like I said, I lean towards Peak Performance as maybe being my favorite. I don't think it's the best episode, but it's my favorite. Hunted is really good. The only thing I think The Hunted is good pretty much all around. The only thing that distracts me a little bit, well, I guess there's a little bit of 2 things that distract me just a little bit. Yeah, is how Roga Danar escapes from the transporter beam. He I don't like that. He does like this hand thing, and we've never seen it
out of the beam.
Yeah, we've never seen that.
Your pieces.
Yeah, we've never seen that before. We never see it again because I think it was a little what happened? And then he's just gone out of the room. Of course, that was, that has to happen. So the episode happens, but in the moment,
an episode that happens much later.
Oh, there is.
With Barclay. No, he doesn't break out. Where Barclay is, it can see something in the beam, which also doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't like that episode.
They did some things.
Yeah, I don't like that episode.
Right. I like
Dwight Schultz, but I like Dwight Schultz. Too. But
speaking of A-Team,
speaking of the A-Team, Dwight Schultz,
completely different character too. Anyway.
Yeah, totally different. But
what was the other thing in The Hunted?
The Hunted is the Jeffrey tubes are like the size of
they were huge.
My living room, right? They're that's the only episode where you can just saunter down a Jeffrey's tube, and you could almost run a foot race or event in these. The Jeffrey's tubes are huge. Just walk.
Also, he sets the phaser on overload twice, 2 different phasers.
Yeah. And
when the second one blows up, it's not that big of an explosion. Mm-hmm. If you'll remember in the first in the original series, a phaser set on overload is going to blow up a city block.
Yes.
Or more.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was dumb too, but the concept and the characters in this one I really liked.
Yeah, no, I agree. It really resonated with me, the idea of a society. I guess we should explain it for people who maybe haven't seen it. We're acting like everybody's watched these episodes a million times.
We know they have.
Yeah, we know. You get the society who has created genetically altered super soldiers, but then after the war, they don't really fit back into society because they're killing machines now. Mm-hmm. But and so the society is just let's just get rid of them, but we need to keep them in case there's another war.
That's exactly why they do it. Yes.
Yeah. So you're just why didn't you remove some of the implants or some of the augmentations? Why didn't you give them psychological counsel to bring them down from this killing kind of frenzy? And they're like, well, we need them again. We might need them again.
Yeah. And then Data is like, can your program be altered? Mine can.
Yeah, mine can. Yeah. So it's like, why can't you be fixed? And it's like the leadership of the planet's like, well, we just might need them again, because And it's like, well, that's very practical, but it's also really bad, right? Like you're just took away these people's lives. They volunteered to help you, and then you didn't. As Picard says, he was right. They're your brothers, they're your sons, and you turned your back on them. And so really a really powerful episode. I think it is heightened by, kind of 1990. This is when we were, we're getting a lot of Vietnam War movies, right? We were getting a lot of the
Platoon came out, I think, the year before.
Yeah, the year before, a couple of years before. And then Full Metal Jacket, I think, came out in 89.
We could have a whole episode on that, my friend.
My word. Yeah. After I get over my nightmares or whatever.
Oh, I love that stupid movie. Anyways.
Anyway, high points of season 3. I mean, there's some good episodes. Deja
The Most Toys is probably one of the most disturbing episodes in that whole season, though.
Yeah,
I love it. Toys. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah, well, I mean, we are skipping over one that is considered like the greatest episode, which is Yesterday's Enterprise is usually considered the greatest episode.
Go ahead, talk about it.
Well, I enjoy it. I enjoy Yesterday's Enterprise. I think the writing is done very well. I thought time travel always is a little, as Doctor Who says, timey-wimey, right? It gets a little squishy here and there. I thought the writing was very good. I thought the direction of the episode too, like just the filmmaking of the episode is very high point, because when we get kind of this, shift from, our current timeline to the altered timeline, and Picard, he turns away from Worf, looks at the screen, we get altered timeline, he turns back and he's blocking them. So when he moves, Tasha Yar is standing there. My jaw just drops, right? Because you're just like the direction of that sequence. And then of course we get the bookend later at the end of the episode where he turns and Worf is back. I just thought that direction was fantastic. I thought that setup was great. Having Denise Crosby back in this kind of context was
a completely different feel than her original character.
Correct. No, absolutely.
To me.
She felt almost like way more professional, way more subdued in some ways, and like not as, she always had a little bit of like off the handle kind of feel in the first few episodes. I think they were doing that to kind of show that she was tough and stuff like that. But
I think my favorite thing came much later about this episode. Was the my first introduction to Shooter McGavin. Because he plays what's his name? He plays the second in command. On the old ship.
Okay.
Christopher McDonald or something like that. Nicholas somebody. His name, the character,
the character was Nick somebody.
Castile. That's it.
But yes,
the actor is like
Christopher McDonald. The actor is Christopher McDonald,
who played Shooter McGavin
in Happy Gilmore.
Gilmore. Yes.
Yes. So we get, there is actually a lot of people. No, there's a lot of people who show up in Star Trek who have some great roles in other episodes or other films and stuff. I mean, so that's really interesting. But you don't seem to be too high on Yesterday's Enterprise. Is that true?
It's okay. I mean, it isn't one of my top. I understand why it is some people's top. It was a well done episode. There's other ones I like better.
Sure. No, a
couple things that I really like. So the fact that Gannon
Legend of Zelda slip in.
Oh, jeez Louise. Guinan.
Yes.
I'm not sure where I went to Ganon, but anyways, Guinan. You could edit that so I don't sound stupid. Anyways, the fact that Guinan can sense the difference in time.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
And that kind of comes into play a little bit later, but not a lot. That was pretty much the only time they ever did that. And that's kind of a dead end, which kind of bugged me.
Yeah.
Because it could have been used.
Yeah. And because otherwise, then it's kind of like Roga Danar escaping from the transporter. You just need her to say that so they know something's wrong with the timeline. And it becomes... it was used as
a plot device as opposed to...
Exactly. Some character development in Gaina that she can sense time distortions, which a reference to powerful. It later. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. So, yes. So if... they could have at least mentioned it like in a couple other episodes or something, that would have been more powerful. It would have made the episode work a little bit better. But
it would have added weight to that. But anyways,
yeah, exactly. Another one of my favorites is in this episode. I love Tin Man. I know.
Oh yeah, Tin Man is a good one.
I really like Tin Man. I thought the actor. They didn't do him any favors with his wardrobe, but the actor who plays Tam Elbrin, I thought that was an interesting concept of a Betazoid who can just like read everybody's mind instantly.
It was interesting. It was a completely different take than we had seen up to this point.
Yeah.
Even with Oksana.
Yeah. Troy's mother. Yeah, Deanna Troy's mother, who can read people's minds, but only if she like concentrates or thinks about it a little bit. Where Tam Elbrin just gets it all. He just has everybody's thoughts. He can just hear everybody's thoughts from a fairly large radius. Like he can hear everybody's thoughts on the entire
passive telepathy.
Yes. And we get that combined with what I thought was awesome at the time. Like, I know it's not a totally original concept, but an organic spaceship, right? A creature who lives in space. And it serves as a spaceship for other beings. But what I thought was very interesting about that is his crew was killed. The crew of the Tin Man, codenamed Tin Man, but who's actually Gumto, is lonely.
Yes.
And I thought that was like you look at this being, the ship, it's a being, it's a living thing. And you're like, it's lonely, but it's totally alien to us. And I thought that was interesting. And where Tam Elbrin is not necessarily lonely because he gets everybody's thoughts all at once, right? He's the opposite. He wants to be almost like cut off from somebody.
Yeah, he's got too much input.
Yeah, he's got too much. And I thought that was a really good kind of
juxtapose there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then Data's conversations, because he can't read Data, and Data, kind of brings out.
I love being around Data because of that.
Yeah. And and the look on the actor's face too, when he's like, he has to ask Data a question, why? He's just like, why?
He's never had to do that.
He's never had to ask somebody why, because he knows all of their thoughts and reasoning right there. And I thought that was just done so well with the actor and how they portrayed that. And the Data is saying, maybe there's nothing to read. You can't read my mind. Maybe there's nothing to read. And he's like, and they have Tam Elbrin just say, well, maybe you're different. But if you're just different. And I thought that was so cool. I mean, it may not be the most original idea in the world, but
the way they did a character development, a character that you could care about within an episode that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. I mean, that's good writing.
No, absolutely. And and
this is the second time they've had a giant space creature. In the same season, I might add.
What was the first one in season 3? What was
the baby thing? That they had to do the C-section.
No, that's in season 4.
Oh, whoops! I've skipped it.
Yeah, that's in season 4, I think. Yeah, that is in season 4. No, that's in season 4 or season 5. Season 4, I think.
Was that season 4?
Yeah, season 4.
Okay.
You're talking about Galaxy's Child or something.
Yeah, that's it. I think. I always want to say Space Seed, but that's a different episode altogether in a different one.
Yeah, that's season 4. That's when Leah Brahms returns.
Yes.
So that's in season 4. So no, we don't get this, but we have been introduced to giant space creatures, right? We got the jellyfish creatures in Encounter and Farpoint, but this is the second time we get one that was used as a ship. But I mean, third season has some really good episodes. I love The Offspring, where Data creates an android daughter. And of course, sadly, she has to die because it's a TV show in the 90s, by this point, and you can't add a new cast member because that would be more money and stuff.
And yet they did. Anyways.
Yeah, they do. We also get Sins of the Father, which is an interesting episode, Worf episode.
It was a good episode.
It is a good episode. I really like that.
It's a continuation of the officer exchange program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they introduce Worf's unknown brother, who is played by the amazing Tony Todd.
Yes.
What a perfect casting on that.
And he's a tall guy.
Oh, he looks like he could throw down with Michael Dorn, and I think
he could.
Yeah, because Michael Dorn's imposing anyway as Worf.
Which episode is it? Oh, that comes later. The huge Klingon.
Oh, where they have it was played by a basketball player who was like 7'3" or something. 7'2".
Yeah, it's just huge, enormous guy. Anyways.
Yeah, but anyways, yes. And then you mentioned The Most Toys, which is really a creepy episode.
With Rivas.
Yeah, where Data is kidnapped and put in a menagerie, and we get this collector who he's not immoral. He's just totally amoral, right? He has no morals whatsoever. Kivas Fajo, played by a great actor as well. So I apologize. I'm forgetting names.
I can't remember his name either. But
he's gone on to great television.
So many things.
Yeah, he's gone on to great television and movie work. I know he's been in a lot of stuff.
He was in the Jesse Stone stuff and.
He was in Warehouse 13 or something. Wasn't that a show?
I don't know. That doesn't ring a bell.
There was a show called Warehouse 13. I think he played a collector of weird things. I think it was kind of odd. Yeah, like extraterrestrial things, in a warehouse.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Warehouse 13. Okay.
Yes, it might have been a nod to that character, I think.
Could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's done a lot of stuff, and he's a good actor.
Yes. Yeah, so he pulls it off. So him and Brent Spiner going back and forth was great, and we get this really interesting. But now there are
dichotomy between these two.
Yeah, Data, who's not human, but he's way more moral than this man who I know he's an alien, but he's basically has a human kind of, he should have compassion and feelings and kindness.
Right. They're not saying that the race is evil. Just he is. He's like an evil Mudd.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like Harry Mudd from the original series. Yeah. He's like that character, but evil instead of just out for, a buck or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
He is just evil. And it is interesting to pair Data along with that, because Data shouldn't have any of these compunctions really, right? But he does, and that's what makes Data.
And Data lies at the end of that episode.
He does. He lies, and I think that is one of the first times that Data ever lies, which is quite interesting.
At least they leave it. It's ambiguous whether or not he lied, but I think he lied.
No, he totally did, because he was going to shoot.
He was going to kill him,
and he said, "Oh, the gun must have. Yeah, the gun must have malfunctioned." And you're like, I always thought that was strange, because he was actually justified in shooting Kivas.
I think so.
Not to give a spoiler
if
to
you
a
haven't watched a
35-year-old episode. You're done. But he's going to shoot him because there is no other way.
It's like us talking about the 10 Commandments and saying something about that. Yeah,
spoilers. Yeah, on a 35-year-old episode. But because he's going to kill him, because that's the only way out of the situation. He's like, you are trapping me, you are killing innocent people, this has to end. And so Data is going to end him. He's going to shoot him and disintegrate him right there.
But he does it morally. He does this whole moral justification.
It is,
which is it's powerful. It really defines Data as a character much stronger than anything before that had. Yeah.
No, I agree.
I mean, and that's Measure of a Man too. Measure of a Man is a great episode. Mm-hmm. It defines him as a being, but this one defines him as a individual, a character.
Yeah, because you follow his logic, and you're like, that's right. Like he comes to like the no-win scenario and says, well, the only way out of this is
that's his Kobayashi.
Yeah, that's his Kobayashi Maru, right? He's going to kill Kivas Faggio. And but he is beamed out just in time, so he doesn't. So of course we can't, you couldn't just have Data shoot somebody in the eyes of producers or writers or a television network or something like that.
Although we did have the creepy.
Although we have Riker and Picard like liquefy the skin off a man earlier, who a man in that case who was totally innocent, by the way, and taken over by creatures.
They killed him. Although I think he was dead.
He should have been dead at that point.
Yeah.
Yes,
and this weird cockroach.
He was dead. So that's how we justify that. But it's all right. But the next episode, I know. Oh my gosh, we're so long over time. We'll probably have to stop here at the end of
this season. Yeah,
stop at season 3, and I'll just have to have you back on, man. But just to wrap up season 3, I know we get the cliffhanger here, which people talk about as the good, one of the best episodes. But I want to talk about another episode before that, which is probably right up there with peak performance. I could just watch this next episode over and over with peak performance, and that is the episode Sarek.
Okay.
No, you don't like Sarek. Okay, here we go.
Oh, no, I like Sarek. Don't get me wrong. Okay. This was an interesting take on the character.
Yeah.
It was completely different than they had done before.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I get it as a completely different take. I love this episode for a number of reasons, not least of which is that Mark Leonard, the actor who plays Sarek, who is Spock's father in the show, holds his own with Patrick Stewart and any actors that you could say out there. Like he just.
Well, you go back to the original series when he plays in Balance of Terror.
Yeah.
That showed his acting chops right there.
Yeah.
He's a good actor, or was a good actor.
Yes, he's passed away. Yeah. But his performance as Sarek is fantastic. I love the way still that the Enterprise is doing stuff. Like he is in the middle of a negotiation. They still have jobs and they're still doing stuff, which in the later seasons, they don't have jobs anymore. And it's a multi-purpose ship at this point. Yes.
Still.
Yes. And so, we'll do a negotiation, but really we're actually solving a lot of plagues and we're like figuring out a lot of, we're cataloging new star systems and stuff. Later seasons, frankly, they don't do anything. They just show up and they're on a ship and they're not doing anything. But Sarek, I really enjoy.
They show up wherever they're told to go or wherever he wants to go.
Yes, exactly. But Sarek, to me, really the episode. We get a lot of good Data stuff here because we get, the
logic.
We get, he doesn't have emotions. The Vulcans want to be Data, but Data doesn't want to be them. He wants to have emotions. So I think that's a really good twist on there. Again, maybe it's not the most original thing in the world, but I really thought it was done well. The writing in this episode is great. The teleplay was actually written by Peter S. Beagle, who is a J.R.R. Tolkien scholar and the author of the children's book, The Last Unicorn. I am still trying to figure out how he writes the teleplay for a season 3 episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. But
I'm guessing that they just were put an open call out.
But the story was based on somebody else, but he wrote the teleplay, which I find is interesting, or at least he was credited, because the story was credited.
He is credited on there.
Yeah. The story was accredited to somebody else, but he wrote the teleplay. And I find that very interesting. Because we get a lot of interesting things. We get, Sarek moved to tears by music because he is suffering from something in aging. And obviously I know some people,
a humiliating issue for Vulcans.
Which is
they have a lot of humiliating issues.
Because they shouldn't feel humiliation. But he's losing his emotional control, which is like the most terrible thing that a Vulcan could ever do, and could ever happen to a Vulcan is to lose emotional control. And I know some people are like, oh, it robs the character of his dignity and blah blah blah, but it's just like, I think there is a point.
It humanized it.
Yeah,
so
because
that you could actually...
what happens sadly to a lot of our family members who reach their 80s and 90s, it's their dignity is taken away from them through health problems
or dementia or what have you.
Yeah, Alzheimer's. You know, we get these things that.
And the protective wife.
Yes.
Yes.
And she did a fantastic job as well. They wrote her character very well. We also get the young Vulcan who has been trying to protect Sarek and using his own mental powers to protect Sarek. And then we get, of course, you know, the mind meld with Captain Picard, right? Where Sarek shares his thoughts with Captain Picard. So,
see, now that's my downfall for this episode.
Okay.
That specifically.
Talk.
Okay. So they created a bond that had no beginning. Mm-hmm. It was not built up. Yeah. Even in the episode, it didn't feel like there was a bond forming between them.
Yeah.
But he uses the captain.
Yeah.
I just didn't see a reason why he would choose him.
No. Other than fan service, right?
Right. Picard, that's what it was. Obviously for fan service. Yes.
Yeah. Obviously Picard, Sarek. Yeah. Let them have a connection. No, I can agree with that. Actually, that's actually one of the better criticisms I've heard of the episode, because it does come.
Episode. It's just different.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was more into action.
Yeah. And no, I get that.
Yeah. And that episode is not an action-based episode. I mean, there's some, but not like that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And this is one of my places where I think a really character-driven story really works, where I think actually Star Trek does better, and the series was better when they had more plot-focused episodes. But that's what I'm saying, too, is they did work in the plot with strange aliens who had to have certain temperature and stuff, and you get a B plot with like Geordi and Wesley working on the equipment and stuff,
which is the whole benefit of having a large cast.
Yeah,
is you can break up the story so that not one thing has to carry it.
Yeah. And so this episode for me is one of the exceptions to like my role where I say I think I like the plot ones focused better. It's like if you're going to do a character episode, do it like this. Have some kind of B plot, have something there. But I think you're all right. Like the connection between Picard and Sarek, the only reason they can kind of give is that Picard's a diplomat as well. They're like, well, Picard's a diplomat and you're a diplomat, so you could do that.
And he's logical thinking.
Yeah, and that Picard has a lot of emotional control, for a human.
They do use that to their benefit, or their whatever you want to call it, credit. Mm-hmm. They use that connection later too. So
yes. And yes, they do. And I thought that kind of made it work a little bit better, even though I have some weird, unorthodox opinions about the episodes you're talking about that happened later.
Well, we'll get to that tonight.
But yeah, we're not going to get to that tonight, seeing as how we're like this episode. I probably have to break this episode in 2 parts anyway. But Sarek, I really like it. It is one of those times, and I think it's just because Mark Leonard, maybe it's nostalgia, but Mark Leonard, Picard, and Brent Spiner to some degrees, they just carry it, right? They just their acting is so good. I'm just listening to their words, and you just get all these different scenes. And I still, to be
honest, those Brent Spiner and obviously Patrick Stewart are probably the two most the powerhouses of that show.
Yeah,
they carry most of them.
Yeah, it really by this point, it becomes like Picard, Data, Worf. That's the show.
Yep.
Everybody else is a supporting character. The Doctor, Counselor, Geordi, even Wesley. But of course, Wesley's going to leave here shortly. The show is in support of Picard, Data, and Worf. Everybody else, even Riker, they all support those characters, I think. And it's really interesting. And that's what we were talking about before. I think that's nothing what the producers, I don't think, wanted at all. I think they wanted Riker to be in there. And and probably Geordi was
pretty good, and Geordi they used pretty good too. I mean,
yeah, they use him. He's just a background. He's a supporting character.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, in the majority, their character isn't three-dimensional enough to support a lot of episodes. I mean, you can focus on one thing here or there and create an episode based on that. But
well, they tried, of course, in Geordi's character was totally different in the first season. He was going
the first season. Remember, Roddenberry's his whole premise for that character was very simple. He wanted a blind pilot.
Yes,
which is what he did. Yeah. Other than that, the character didn't have anything.
No, in Arsenal of Freedom, they gave Geordi, he wanted to command a starship. And he wanted to be a captain.
That's true.
And they really built that into his character, especially in that episode, that he was learning how he could command an episode. Now, the idea of a blind pilot, I don't know if that came from Roddenberry or if it came from Robert Justman, but I
thought it came from Roddenberry.
It came from Roddenberry. Well,
I think you'll probably get comments.
Yeah, I probably will. So that's awesome. I welcome comments. But what's also interesting, I mean, this is a side note. Now that you brought it up, they totally forget in the later seasons that Geordi even wears a visor. They just totally forgot that. The producers just never mention it in the first two
hardly
seasons.
Ever.
Yeah, in the first two seasons, they're saying why it makes him different, why he can see things other people can't. It's actually the plot point in a few episodes.
Yeah, and then he sees the world differently.
Yeah, and then they just forget about that. And then him becoming
they use it as a plot device several times later, but not as an integral part of the character in that same way.
Yeah. They just a couple times just knock it off or say he has like an implant or something. They don't really use it like they did in the first and second season to say that.
Right. In the first season, they plug it in so that they can see what he's seeing, and it's this whole big thing.
That was that was the first season. That was awesome.
It was the pilot.
Well, no, that when he saw
because they were on that ship. They were on the thing, and he was seeing all. Oh wait, no, that wasn't in that.
That was in the Klingon episode. That was in that was Heart of Honor.
Okay.
That was where he saw the ship was going to explode, and he could tell them how long it was going to be until they explode. So that was in Heart of Honor. Heart of Glory. What is it? Heart of Glory. Let me check.
Yeah, I'll just agree with you.
Let me double check. I know. Heart of Glory. Heart of Glory. That's one of my favorite episodes in there. So
Oh, sure it is. You can't remember the name.
I just did. I said it was Heart of Glory. I said Heart of Honor at first, but then I said Heart of Glory. I can't remember a lot of things I liked, though, Ryan. That's
how many episodes are there? 100 or something?
120 some, 130 some, 140 some,
somewhere in there.
Something like that. Because 5 seasons puts you over 100, so there were 7.
Yeah, that's true.
But and we'll talk here because I've got to let you go.
My wife just getting on me.
Best of both worlds. Obviously, the first big cliffhanger. The first two-parter, the first I think it's the first cliffhanger. There was a two-parter.
That was the very first real cliffhanger.
For Star Trek. And best of both worlds. Of course, we bring back the Borg. We break their character, though. We break their nature already in their second appearance, and they get rewritten because in the first appearance they don't care about individuals at all. But in this one, they're going to care about an individual. Of course, they're going to kidnap Patrick Stewart. They're going to kidnap Captain Picard. Patrick Stewart was fine. But this was
we all knew what you meant.
We all know what you meant. I get reality confused anyway, right? Like the kid in the Galaxy Quest, right? No,
oh god,
I was never that bad. No, I was never that bad. Really, I wasn't. I didn't believe it was real. Seriously, I didn't believe it was real. No,
we believe you. It's okay.
I'm just joking. But anyway, I knew it was a TV show. Really, Ryan, I knew it was a TV show.
Okay.
I knew it was a TV show.
Okay.
But anyway, best of both worlds. I love the episode. Not one of, it's one of my favorites, but it's not high on my list. At the time, this blew my mind.
They were bringing in cyberpunk, basically.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. They brought in
they had the cybernetics and all that.
Yeah. The implants.
I guess it's not cyberpunk, but cyborgs.
Yeah. And what also blew my mind, obviously, is this is 1990. I was hook, line, and sinker on this show, right? Like I was into it. I was watching everything, even the kind of the down episodes in season 3. I liked them back then.
Matter of fact, about this time we were getting reruns. Yes. From the first few seasons.
Yes. Right after this, it was right at the beginning of the first season. It went into syndication, and I was watching Star Trek like 7 days a week, and I was like honestly, it affected my grades in high school. Like my grades started going down because I was just watching Star Trek like 7 days a week. And I mean, seriously, that's what I was doing. I wanted to live in Star Trek. I knew it was a TV show, though. I knew it was a TV show, but I wanted to live there. And so we get best of both worlds. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts. But I mean, one of the things, though, like in the real world, like that whole summer, I was just hanging on by a thread. I could not wait for that next episode to drop because the network, Paramount also dropped all this stuff. Like Patrick Stewart's contract is up. He wants to go be in Shakespeare movies or whatever. And
wanted to. No, it wasn't movies. He wanted to do Broadway again, or not? Broadway.
Yeah. Plays,
Broadway. That was what he came from.
Yeah, they were like dropping all this stuff, like, oh, he wants to go back to the theater or movies, and we don't even know.
He was like in People magazine that year or something. I think.
Yeah. And like even Jonathan Frakes, I think, and a couple others, is like Jonathan Frakes may leave the show, and it's all these contracts and stuff. Yeah. And so they kept us, like, I was on the edge of my seat because I was thinking the show was
going to be another one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, when it comes, we know they're going to come, but like it's going to happen is Patrick Stewart leaving the show? Is Riker leaving the show? Yeah, they're going to kill him. Yeah. Yeah. I was on the edge of my seat, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on the episode. I don't know if you had similar thoughts to it.
I did. I remember watching this episode and just being completely shocked at what they did, because up to that point, they had never done anything quite that hard hitting.
Yeah.
Where you lose a character and he's dead as far as we know.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen with him. And, at this point, Captain Picard, for me, was integral. Without him, it didn't work, and then you've got Riker in command.
Yeah.
And Riker's different. And he's no Kirk. But, and he's definitely no Picard.
No.
And I just, in his rashness, I was just, you're like, oh my gosh, all these conflicting styles, and it was just a completely and then was it this one that we had the Shelby?
Yes.
Or did she come in the next one?
No, it was this one. She was, Commander Shelby was introduced. They introduced the character to really kind of be Riker's foil, to be like, you need to move. You're turning down promotions. She's like, you're stuck. You're in my way. Get out of your way.
You're in my way. I think is exactly what she says too.
Yeah, it's like, you're old now. You're afraid to be a captain and all this stuff.
Which is a play off of the episode with Kohlrami. What's that called? War Games one. I can't remember what it's called. It's that same. He doesn't. Oh wait, does that come later? No, we talked about this. Yeah.
Which one? When Riker, he's offered a captaincy a couple of times. He was offered in Coming of Age.
Hit this. Yeah.
Yeah. In Coming of Age, the episode. That has like 5 plots, and I don't know how they pulled it off, and it's awesome. Because they have so many characters in that episode. Like Picard saves a kid's life. Wesley takes an exam. We learn about his father's death. We also get Riker almost leaving the show. Like, I mean, they pulled it off great. And I know there's some criticism about that because people are like, oh, well, we knew Jonathan Frakes wouldn't leave the show. Well, we didn't know that in the 80s because I thought the show was going to get canceled every week anyway.
Well, it was constantly being talked about that there's no way it's going to survive.
Yeah. And then when we get this show, there was also rumors. This was when there were starting to be rumors also of like a spinoff show. And so you're like,
that's right. Matter of fact, didn't they brought on some character that they were talking about making a spinoff of, and they never did it.
Yeah.
But I don't remember what it was now.
Well, but this got you thinking like, oh, maybe Riker does leave and he's the spinoff show, right? It's like he's a captain of the ship or something like that.
Which could have easily been a whole nother show.
Oh, that would have been a hit. I would have watched that every day.
I would have too. I mean, I make fun of Riker now, but at the time, Riker was the cool. He's like the cool teacher, you know?
Yeah.
You like that guy. That guy is like, he's cool.
Yeah. And I know Riker gets kind of a bad rep now. And then we can watch like the YouTube videos of the Riker maneuver, you know, of him stepping over chairs and stuff. And we can have a good laugh. But I mean,
one of my favorite thing is to put my leg up on the couch, you know, where you're spreading your crotch right next to somebody.
Yeah.
Because that's what he did. He did that constantly to whoever was piloting.
Yeah. He just kind of walks over. Yeah. Puts his leg up like, the Captain Morgan or whatever.
Exactly. He does a Captain Morgan type thing.
Yeah. And then, or just hops over the backs of chairs.
That's all Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah.
That's him. That was just his blocking, how he wanted to do it.
Well, they said his back hurt and he couldn't, he injured his back and he couldn't bend a certain way or whatever. But I mean, it was interesting. Yeah. At the time I thought he was awesome. I know now we can have some fun with him, but I mean, he was still very good overall. And I enjoyed the character.
He was a great supporting character. Oh, there's absolutely. No doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like we said, if they would have spun off a show and just put Riker as captain of the USS, I don't know, Excalibur,
Duncan or whatever.
Yeah. I would have watched that every week along with Next Generation, along with Picard and
because it would have been a different story altogether.
Absolutely.
And that's what at this point, I think it was season 2 or maybe season 3 where we actually had the TV guide with Picard versus Kirk. Yeah. And there was this whole thing going on, you know, who do you prefer, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they're just completely different.
Yeah.
You cannot, I mean, do I love Kirk? Yes. Yeah. Do I love Picard? Yes. Mm-hmm. They're different.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was another time too, right? This big cliffhanger. It was like big TV news, right? The Next Gen was a huge show at this point. Yep. Like it was a
juggernaut at this point.
It was a huge hit. Cover of TV Guide. I think Patrick Stewart gets like voted sexiest man alive or something.
Yeah, I think that was season 3.
You know, somewhere around here.
Yeah.
The look of the show really came through. I think like the uniforms,
the new
uniforms are
things.
Cool. You know, they updated some of the computers and some of the sets around.
In fact, isn't this when Deanna Troi gets her jumpsuit was in season 3?
I think she doesn't.
Because in season 1, she's got the old style.
Yeah, that was very strange. Her dress. Yeah. Well, that was a reaction to the pilot because some producer, some network guy at Paramount was like, she looks like a cheerleader. Get her out of that outfit because she wore the skirt.
Lieutenant Uhura, all of those. That's what it was.
Yeah, she wore the skirt uniform in Encounter at Farpoint. Then they put her in the purple jumpsuit with her hair tied back, which was awful. Then in season 2, they had her in something a little different, like the purple jumpsuit, which is a little bit better. And that was, I think it continues on to season 3. She's still in that. I think it's season 4 where they finally put her, allow her to wear a dress and stuff. But it's season 3.
She starts wearing very 90s outfits.
Yeah, well, but they're dresses, and so they're certainly better than that first season. Like I would have rather seen the skirt uniform than that first season purple jumpsuit with her hair all tied back.
Oh, I don't really like the jumpsuits that much at all, I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But the set got a redesign in 3.
Yeah, everything
between 3 and 4.
Yeah, there were some sets like behind Picard's head, like they add just a little detail, and that actually makes those shots look way better because before it was just like a piece of plywood, right? It's just a blank wall.
But just like
it was just a blank thing, and they just put a couple little lines on it, and you were like, "Thank you." That makes it they actually made it look pleasing to look at it. I thought that was great.
Well, there's just. It's the difference between Star Trek is a very clean line show.
Yeah.
So that's how they did it. You know, the first sets were very clean line. Mm-hmm. As opposed to, you know, with Star Wars or Battlestar Galactica or Firefly or whatever you want to, even Buck Rogers. They had stuff stuck to the wall, just random stuff. This supposed, science fiction-y, which I love too. Don't get me wrong, but Star Trek is very clean cut everything. The lines, the characters, the way Starfleet is, everything is completely clean.
Yeah. No, I agree. And there were just some subtle changes. So the look of the show in season 3 is like almost totally different. But it's for the better, right? We lose the jumpsuit uniforms. Even though I think that adds to the show too, because then if you show in the past, you can just show an old uniform and it works. You automatically know it's in the past. I think that's great. The new uniforms looked awesome.
We start getting the pulling down the jacket.
Yeah, we get the Picard maneuver along with the Riker maneuver, stepping over chairs. We get Picard pulling down his shirt the whole time. But the show really came into its own here. Well, Ryan, I've had you on for 2 hours, an hour overtime. This is ridiculous. I'm going to have to split this into 2 episodes already. And then we have 4
Oh my gosh, you know what that means. That means there's going to be like 4 episodes.
I know, because I think there's going to be like 2 more episodes. Well, this will help carry me over the holidays so I don't have to do podcast recording over the holidays. But this was great. I mean, I love having you on, man. I love hearing some of your thoughts. I like hearing some of the takes. I know we agree, we disagree on some things. I love hearing your takes because they're not there seems to be a monolith. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube, listen to some podcasts about Star Trek. There seems to be a lot of monolithic opinions, and I'm glad to hear some different ones. I like hearing
it's very polarized. There's basically like 2 main camps.
Yes.
And it's the crunchy sci-fi people and the non-crunchy people.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of the same arguments over and over and over again.
Yeah, we do. And this will be our cliffhanger episode because you've already said your 4th season is your least favorite. So this is a cliffhanger. So everybody who's listening is going to have to come back to hear Ryan's thoughts.
2. That's all I have in season 4.
Oh, wow. So we're going to have to come back for Ryan's thoughts on season 4. And so, Ryan, we're going to leave it there, but I'm going to throw it to you. Where can people find your podcast, your RPG work, and all that stuff, man?
Oh, definitely. So, as you mentioned, Geezers of the Game, it's a monthly podcast at this point. Life anyways, but we talk about role playing, everything about role playing. We just had a great interview with David Steary, who's a author and an actor. He has a whole big thing, so go check that out. It's Geezers of the Game. We're on all the major podcast aggregates out there.
Okay, nice. And then, of course, as always, I will put links in the show notes for this episode or episodes at dicegeeks.com. So anybody who's listening, just head over to dicegeeks.com, find the show notes for this episode, and you will find a link to Geezers of the Game, Ryan's podcast. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Like I said, we'll just have to schedule another one, talk about season 4 through 7, probably another 2 hours. Who even knows? Thank you so much for coming on and humoring me. It was a blast.
Thank you. That was awesome. I love talking about stuff I love.
All right, there you have it, guys. Oh my goodness, we're leaving you on a cliffhanger, just like Star Trek: The Next Generation season 3 left us all on a cliffhanger back in 1990, 1991. Anyway, guys, it was an awesome conversation. I was thrilled to talk to Ryan about this. Again, we will be recording the rest of our conversation about seasons 4 through 7 here shortly. I really hope you will tune in for those. But just a reminder, my guest was Ryan McHargue. He is the host of the Geezers of the Game podcast. Check out the show notes at dicegeeks.com for a link to his podcast, or you can Google search it, find it in your favorite podcast player, app, wherever you're listening. You will not be disappointed. Same as always, if you want some free stuff, head over to dicegeeks.com/free. Also, if you want to support the show financially, you can do so at patreon.com/dicegeeks. You can also like, rate, review, and subscribe. That would be awesome. Those things help out the show immensely. I thank you so much for listening. And until next Wednesday, keep gaming.